Chapter 616, Ling Tian's Challenge. In just a short few days, if Ling Tian was the only one who experienced a breakthrough, while Justice would find it strange, he wouldn't be too shocked. After all, it was still acceptable for Ling Tian to have a sudden enlightenment. However, for 10 people to have a sudden enlightenment together a broken bar, wasn't this too puzzling? Unless the 10 of them consumed a large amount of heavenly treasure at the same time. However, could such a large amount of heavenly treasure possibly exist? Could they have enough to provide for a full 10 people? This was too unbelievable. While Justice was extremely knowledgeable and had guessed the truth, this truth was far too astounding. Even in Justice's experience, it was unbelievable. After all, Ling Tian's luck truly went against the heavens. For him to casually take out the inner pellet of the legendary flood dragon, was this something that an ordinary person could do? Danj, you a broken bar, you successfully broke through into the 12th level. Li Zu's voice trembled and she was filled with disbelief. The 12th level? Are you mad? Ling Tian originally wanted to show off to her and was immediately choked by Li Zu's words. He coughed twice awkwardly and said, I only broke through a bottleneck that I faced in the 11th level. This is already a huge blessing. Don't you know that from the 7th level onward, every additional level would grant me twice the energy? From the 10th level onward, the difference between the two levels can't even be measured. How would it be possible for someone to fly from the 11th to 12th level so easily? Do you think that this is a fairy tale? Do you want to anger me to death? How useless. You are still at the 11th level. Li Zu snorted as though she looked down on Ling Tian with disdain. You a broken bar, this lass. In a fit of rage, Ling Tian grabbed Li Zu over and gave her a good spanking on her round ass. Li Zu was caught off guard and suddenly felt a powerful force dragging her over before a burning feeling on her ass. She could not help but grab onto her ass as she jumped away with her face completely red. Everyone burst out laughing and Ling Kai and his others actually dared to let out a wolf whistle and wink at Ling Tian. They definitely looked even worse than lechers. If the two of them were alone, Li Zu wouldn't really mind if Ling Tian performed such actions. However, they were currently in front of everybody. Li Zu was both embarrassed and angry as she pounced towards Ling Tian while brandishing her claws. Keep quiet, a broken bar. Look, the crucial time is here. Ling Tian pointed towards the plaza. Ling Feng, Ling Yun, Ling Lei, and Ling Dian were currently sparring with each other so that they could stabilize their foundations. Ever since they left their seclusion, they sparred against each other without stopping. Under the guidance of Ling Tian, Ling Jian, Ling Chen, and Li Zu, the martial arts of the little brats had increased quickly. In just a short period of time, they were able to regain control of the rapid increase in their energy. With the 4 of them engaging in an intense sparring match, everyone else could only see their figures flashing around in the plaza. Stop! Ling Tian shouted out before looking at Ling Yan with a smile. Brother Justice, what do you think about my little brothers? Justice sat on an armchair and said, these little ones have a good foundation but they are still lacking practice. The moment Feng, Yun, Lei, and Dian heard that, they all shrunk back in fear. The one who they respected the most was Ling Tian, and relied on the most was Ling Jian, but the one who they feared the most was Justice, who was before them. This fellow was really a little too perverse. Despite being the #1 expert in the world, he was also the #1 medical saint in the world. After treating the injuries of the 4 little brats, he began to train them up. However, his training method wasn't an orthodox one and his actions were extremely vicious. He would always spank them on the ass, which was the place where it would hurt martial arts practitioners the most. Every time the 4 of them saw Justice, they would want to faint on the spot. Of course, the 4 of their martial arts did improve greatly as well, especially their movement techniques. If their previous movement technique was breaking through from the realm of the mortals to the deities, their current movement technique was like the deities' painting. However, even with their improved movement technique, Justice could toy with them as he wished. While they did want to put their life on the line to fight Justice's martial arts was just too far above theirs, and it was no different from them seeking abuse. Thus, whenever these brats saw Justice, they would want to turn tail and run. If not for their strength making a huge advancement and Ling Tian giving them strict orders, they would definitely not appear today. Justice continued, as for the other two brats, they are naturally better. Of course, there is still room for improvement. Justice then pointed at Ling Jian and Ling Kai, looking as though he was full of regret that Ling Kai escaped from his palms because of his little girlfriend dear. While Justice seemed as though he was filled with disdain in his words, he was actually extremely shaken on the inside. Of the 10 men and 3 ladies before him, they were all either suave young gentlemen or peerless beauties. Their talents were impressive and their foundation was strong. However, this wasn't enough to shake Justice. What made him the most shocked was the fact that apart from Li Zhu and Ling Tian, the other 11 had their own strong suite and something unique about themselves. Furthermore, all 11 of them were single-handedly trained by Ling Tian. A single master was able to teach 11 disciples with different styles. Furthermore, they were all experts. Based on Justice's experience, this was definitely extremely rare. If a master had tens or hundreds of disciples who were all experts, Justice wouldn't be surprised. But if a master was able to teach 10 disciples who had completely different styles, this was something that was extremely challenging. Even if Justice tried to nurture a bunch of disciples, with his vast martial arts knowledge he would naturally be able to train them all differently. However, it was inevitable for all of his disciples to have a shadow of his martial arts and it would be impossible for them to be so different. However, Ling Tian had actually accomplished such a feat. Such a feat was right before Justice's eyes. Ling Tian was a teen who was less than 20 years old. Ling Tian smiled, lacking practice? May Brother Justice train them for a while? Justice's eyes glowed and as he looked at the 4 brats, they felt as though they were completely naked and were completely seen through by Justice. Justice then shook his head and said, "Number, even if the 4 of them had some breakthroughs, they wouldn't be my match even if they joined hands. Besides that, the 4 of them fear me as though I was a tiger and they no longer have the confidence to challenge me. There wouldn't be any meaning for them to challenge me. You should also know that I had just made a breakthrough recently and I am not able to control my strength to perfection yet. The moment I take action, their lives may be at stake. It's best that we forget about Ida Broken Bar." The recent breakthrough that Justice was talking about was him being inspired by Yu Bingyan's martial arts. These past few days, Justice had already merged this new martial arts knowledge together with his own martial arts. Ling Tian frowned. After Ling Tian experienced his recent breakthrough, he was confident that he wouldn't be defeated by Justice. However, he was shocked to realize that Justice had also achieved a breakthrough as well. While Ling Tian did want to borrow Justice's strength to raise the strength of Feng, Yan, Lei, and Dian, he definitely didn't want their lives to be harmed. Justice was a martial arts maniac and had his own pride. While he was willing to train the 4 of them, he wouldn't feed them moves for sure. If he was willing to do so, he wouldn't be Justice. Looking at how the 4 of them was so full of fear when facing Justice, Ling Tian knew that Justice must have tortured the 4 of them badly when training them previously. As such, Ling Tian had no choice but to give up the thought. Right at this moment, Ling Jian suddenly stood forward and with a cold glare in his eyes, he looked at Justice. At the same time, a boundless sword chi and killing intent also shot out from his body and he said expressionlessly, "Martial Order Medallion Owner, let me fight you." Ling Tian felt his heart clench up. While Ling Jian had indeed made huge improvements from a month ago, he definitely wasn't a match for Justice. It was truly a little too early and unwise for Ling Jian to issue Justice a challenge. If Ling Jian lost today, even if Justice showed him mercy and didn't harm his life, the notion of Justice being undefeatable would still be planted in his heart and it wouldn't be good for his future progress. Looking at Ling Jian's resolute appearance, Ling Tian hesitated for a moment but did not stop Ling Jian. Ling Jian didn't want to spar with Justice but wanted to challenge Justice. He wanted to challenge Justice with his life as the price. The moment Ling Jian stood forward, he unleashed his boundless aura, chilly killing intent, and unbreakable sword chi, transforming his body into a sword. When Ling Jian broke through into the 8th stage of the divine shocking dragon formula, he also comprehended another technique, transforming his body into a sword. This was also the reason why he had the confidence to challenge Justice. Justice's eyes narrowed, and as he looked at Ling Tian, he didn't make a single move, but he seemed to have been transformed into a gigantic mountain crushing down towards Ling Tian. He didn't say anything and didn't make a move. However, he unleashed his boundless aura to retaliate against Ling Tian's aura. Ling Tian waved his sleeves and drifted back 80 feet. He did not wish to and could not interfere in the battle between the two of them. This was also where Ling Tian was wise. If he didn't interfere, with Justice's strength being far above Ling Tian, Justice would be able to show mercy. If he interfered in their battle at this moment, Justice would definitely have to use his full strength to deal with them, and while he would be fine, Ling Tian would face certain death. If that's the case, Ling Tian wouldn't be helping Ling Tian but killing him. The instant Ling Tian backed away, a strange transformation happened between Ling Tian and Justice. Both of them did not make a single move, but in the eyes of the others, it was as though the space between the both of them had been warped. A short while later, Ling Tian took a step back and his eagle eyes were locked onto Justice. Admiration. Thank you. Justice turned around and seemed to be pondering for a moment before saying, "You're welcome." While your strength can't be compared to the Ling Tian of half a year ago, you already have the rights to challenge me. Of course, I mean in the future. I am truly willing to wait for such an opponent. I will be waiting for you. A smile could be seen on Ling Tian's frosty face, and he did not say another word. He turned around and stood behind Ling Tian without saying a thing. Ling Tian frowned and roared, "Spit it out." He used a commanding tone that did not allow Ling Tian to defy him. Ling Tian's face turned red, and the moment he opened his mouth, an arrow of blood was shot onto the ground. The arrow of blood was actually able to create a deep hole in the ground. After panting for a short moment, Ling Tian returned to normal. Chapter 617, Parting with Justice. Ling Tian smiled coldly and looked at Ling Tian. "If you do not have the strength to protect your face, you have to protect your life first. You only need to care about your face after you have both strength and status. Your body is your own, but face is for someone else. Do you think that the current you has the right to keep your face before Justice? You would only throw your face if you try to do that." Ling Tian stood by the side silently, and he did not have a trace of embarrassment from losing the battle. "Yes." After pausing for a moment, Ling Tian slowly added, "But there will definitely be this chance in future. If you did not spit out that mouthful of blood, you would have truly lost the right to challenge me again. However, I am still extremely satisfied right now." "All right, at that time, I will wait for you to regain your face." Haha. A broken bar Justice let out a hearty laugh. "It is sometimes pretty interesting to kill as well, right?" Very obviously, Ling Tian's sharp killing intent had incited Justice's interest. Ling Tian fell silent and looked at Justice for a while with a knowing smile. Even if a smiling Ling Tian wasn't as rare as the phoenix's feathers, it wouldn't be very much more common. Even Ling Tian, Ling Kai, Ling Chen, and the others who were extremely familiar with Ling Tian rarely had the chance to see him smile. However, Ling Tian had actually smiled to an outsider today. It was truly a rare affair. Ling Tian was also amused by the scene before him and walked forward slowly to where the two of them were previously standing. Shaking his head, he sighed, "What a pity. My flat ground has been ruined." As he said that, his right hand pressed down slightly and a small whirlwind could be seen spinning around his palm. The next moment, a meter-long crater was revealed. This huge crater was silently formed because the rocks within the crater had previously been reduced to dust. There were two deep footprints where Ling Tian had been standing like it was smashed up by an axe. However, the place where Justice had been standing did not have the slightest bit of change. Looking at the two clear footprint marks, Ling Tian let out a sigh. At the same time, he looked at Justice with a burning gaze. This was the distance between them. It was also Ling Tian's target. Over the next 3 days, Ling Tian, Ling Chen, Li Zhu, and Ling Kai would take turns to spar with Justice. They would either pair up or form a group of 3. At the very end, the 4 of them joined hands to face Justice together but were still unable to gain the slightest bit of an advantage. The strangest thing was that Ling Tian didn't take action at all, and Justice surprisingly did not request for Ling Tian to take action either. Ling Tian watched from the side from the beginning to the end as though he was thinking about something. At the same time, Justice spent most of his time looking towards the sky as though he was thinking about something as well. The actions of the two were extremely similar. 3 days later, after Justice drank 2 bottles of Ling Tian's hero's blood, he decided that it was time for him to leave. Before he left, his conversation with Ling Tian had puzzled everyone. "Justice, I am leaving. Before the time is right, I will not return." Ling Tian: "Oh, Justice, how long do you think you will need?" Ling Tian: "Probably a broken bar 5 years. 6 at the very most." Justice: "You're pretty confident, eh?" 5 years later then. Ling Tian: "Okay. A broken bar." Ling Tian: "Are we friends?" Justice: "Are we enemies?" Ling Tian: "We aren't friends or enemies, we are opponents and comrades." Justice: "Haha, a broken bar." Ling Tian: "What a pity. I've broken bar I were to kill you." Justice: "I've broken bar I were to kill you as well." Ling Tian: "I will wait for you to kill me." Justice: "Likewise." As the two of them were talking, Li Zhu, who was the closest in realm to Ling Tian, could feel that while there wasn't an oppressive aura being emanated from Justice, a dangerous pressure was being given out by him. Someone who had not walked down the Yellow Springs Road like Li Zhu and Ling Tian would not be able to notice this danger. While Ling Tian did not make a special move, he was like a divine sword out of its sheath. A tyrannical aura was being given out by him as though he was attacking something. Furthermore, there seems to be a hidden meaning in both of their words, as though they were trying to fix an appointment and test something. A broken bar. They were obviously fixing a time to start a world-shaking battle, Li Zhu silently thought to herself. However, just what kind of a battle would it be such that even her who understood Ling Tian the most wasn't able to tell? Furthermore, Ling Tian, who just had a breakthrough, seemed to be on the losing end. Just how high a level of cultivation did Justice have? Li Zhu frowned and fell into deep thought. A long while later, she snapped out from her thought and a look of shock could be seen on her face. Could it be that their battle ice or broken bar? Right at this moment, the two of them had finally finished their strange conversation. Justice looked at Ling Tian with a profound smile and waved his hands before drifting away without turning back. His tall figure drifted with the autumn winds and he melded together with the yellow leaves before disappearing without a trace. Ling Tian looked at Yellow Leaves with his hands behind his back and muttered, "You have disappeared, but I am still around. Therefore, victory will be mine." At this moment, Ling Tian's disposition had reverted back to his usual carefree attitude. However, the change was very subtle, and in the eyes of the rest, the current Ling Tian wasn't any different from the previous Ling Tian. After that, Ling Tian suddenly let out a laugh and shook his head, as though he threw something away. He shook his head again and muttered under his breath, "Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, broken bar really can't bear to." Ling Tian looked at the two people conversing with each other. He looked towards where Justice had disappeared and then looked at Ling Tian, who had his arms behind his back. A burning excitement could be seen in his eyes. Was this the true peak of power? Ling Chen and Yu Bingyan looked at Ling Tian's back and a look of intoxication could be seen in their eyes. It was as though this view alone was enough to intoxicate the two ladies or broken bar. The only one who didn't fit into this picture was Li Zhu, who had her lips burst in disdain, looking as though she wanted to puke. She muttered under her breath with disdain, "Chia broken bar, he really knows how to act cool. He just has to try acting cool regardless of where he is." This is truly unbearably broken bar. Dear heavens, if there is someone watching, please send a bolt of lightning a broken bar. After everything had come to an end, Ling Tian stayed in the Ling family courtyard and began a leisurely life. He accompanied the few beauties every day to play chess, zither, paint a broken bar. It was truly the perfect life. Ling Tian ignored all of the battles that were going on outside. He left it all to Ling Chen, Li Zhu, Ming Liege, and Jianzhu to take care of it. His action of disregarding all of his responsibilities made everyone grumble with complaints. Meng Li and Ling Tian were especially tired, and they would frequently grumble to Ling Tian. Ling Tian would have a broad shoulder to lean on at the very least, but Meng Li would obviously not receive such treatment. Even if Ling Tian was willing to let Meng Li lean on him, Meng Li wouldn't want to. Ling Tian's reply was extremely simple. If I have to settle everything on my own, what is the point of having you guys? Having the few of you is sufficient, and as for how tired you guys are, your broken bar. What has that got to do with me? If you guys are tired, you can also follow me and delegate your jobs to your subordinates, as long as it doesn't affect the big picture. Hearing those words, Ling Chen would lean on Ling Tian's broad shoulders and whine for a while, and her anger would be pacified. But when Meng Li heard that, he rolled his eyes and immediately walked away in anger. Meng Li was truly extremely bold in the way he treated his master. What a joke! If everyone was so capable, what is the point of having me around? If everyone shrinks from their responsibility like you, wouldn't the courtyard fall into chaos? However, in regards to how Ling Tian trusted him wholeheartedly, Meng Li truly admired Ling Tian. There weren't many monarchs who could have such a breadth of heart, and every single monarch that had this breadth of heart were all extremely accomplished. Only those who could let go of absolute authority in their hands would be able to reach the peak of authority. While serving under such a master was indeed tiring, it was extremely comfortable. Just the amount of trust which Ling Tian gave him was something that no other person in the world would be able to give. Thus, while Meng Li was extremely tired every day, he spent every day in joy and fulfillment. As for Ling Tian only gave him a single bit of instruction: didn't you want to seek revenge against the Lei family? Just make sure that you leave enough manpower behind. You can take the other brats out to train, and you can create as much chaos as you want. With these words being said, apart from Ling Tian, the other 8 assassins were split into 2 groups and excitedly took turns to go out. Especially Feng, Yan, Lei, and Dian, who were truly tortured badly by justice a while ago. This time, it was their chance to trample over others. This made Ling Jian itch as he was staying back in the Ling family courtyard. He hated the fact that he could not pull Ling Kai back to replace him while he went out to have his fun. During this period of time, the Yu family successfully wiped out the Wu Empire. Apart from the Moon Deity Empire in the extreme west, they had almost completely united their half of the continent. However, the Moon Deity Empire was too far away, and a large desert separated them. Even with the Yu family's immense strength, they would not dare to recklessly send out their forces for now. Besides that, winter was arriving, and it was time for the war to take a pause. How would Yu Manlu dare to pass through the desert during the winter? That would be akin to sending his army on a suicide mission. Settling the Moon Deity Empire was definitely going to be a long process for the Yu family. In regards to the Lei family ambushing the Ling family, Ling Tian only sent Ling Kai to give a letter to Yu Manlu. He just informed Yu Manlu that Yu Bingyan was unharmed and her body was fine. He also made it known to Yu Manlu about his resolution to wipe out the Lei family and warned Yu Manlu and his Yu family to not interfere. Yu Manlu agreed to Ling Tian's request without a trace of hesitation, and this was something that Ling Tian had also expected. The Lei family was already finished and no longer had any use to Yu Manlu. Furthermore, the Lei family was still sending men to the Yu family to complain and whine to Yu Manlu, requesting for him to take revenge for Lei Zentian. Yu Manlu was already extremely frustrated with the Lei family. Was the current Ling Tian someone so easily dealt with? Thus, Ling Tian intending to wipe out the Lei family was also what Yu Manlu wanted. Chapter 618, Beginning of winter. After investing an endless amount of manpower and resources, the Zhao family finally managed to reopen the Blue Jade River. The Zhao family's army had also unleashed their ferocious counterattack, and the Ling family's 3 armies had also been sent over. Yu Yanhai occupied the Heavenly Water Ravine Pass at the very first moment and did not attempt to risk an attack but guarded the place firmly. He only had a single goal: as long as he protected the pass, it would be his greatest victory. When the other 2 armies of their Ling family arrived, the defenses of the Heavenly Water Ravine Pass would be unbreakable. The Heavenly Water Ravine Pass, which originally belonged to the Zhao family, was now the #1 defense line of the Ling family. As the weather became colder and colder, the Zhao family army's advance also seemed to be slowing down. After all, the winter here was colder than -10 degrees Celsius, and at its coldest, it was -30 to 40 degrees Celsius. Fighting a war in this weather and attempting to siege a city was akin to suicide. Even if Zhao Fenghan wasn't unwilling, he had no choice but to let his soldiers rest. After a year of chaos in Heavenly Star, millions of corpses were littered in the wilderness. As a layer of snow fell onto the continent finally regained its peace. When spring arrived, it would also be the arrival of the generational battle between the Yu and Shui family. This was something that Ling Tian had been looking forward to as well. The snow drifted down. Today, Ling Tian sat up from his warm bed and the sky was still dark on the outside. Only a small glimmer of light could be seen from the east. The first light of day. Ling Tian would wake up every day at this timing, and this was an unbreakable habit ever since Ling Tian arrived in the world. With one on his left and another on his right, there were 2 beautiful figures leaning on Ling Tian's embrace. A warm smile could be seen on Ling Tian's face. On his left was Ling Tian, and with a warm temperature in the room, her face was a rosy red color and a look of happiness could be seen on her face. On his right, Yu Bingyan was curled up like a little kitten and she leaned on Ling Tian's broad chest. After the divine black negative meridians was purged, Yu Bingyan also became more cheerful. Regardless of what she did, she would always have a bright smile on her face. Her reliance on Ling Tian was also far greater than before. Finally, under the intense assault of Ling Tian, Yu Bingyan put up a weak resistance before being completely trapped in Ling Tian's gentleness. During their very first union, even when Ling Tian tried his best to be extremely gentle, Yu Bingyan still squirmed in pain. She actually bit Ling Tian's shoulder, leaving behind a scar, a broken bar. Thinking about the happiness and satisfaction that he felt during this period, Ling Tian felt as though he was living in a dream. When the snow was falling last night, it was the best time for Ling Tian to enjoy his gentle tenderness with his lovers. After a series of persuasions and sweet talking, Ling Tian finally managed to coax the 2 ladies into bed with him and had the time of his life. He finally managed to enjoy the legendary threesome. Ling Tian did not have such a fortune in his previous life, and while he had the fortune in this life of his, he had been restraining himself. He had only managed to enjoy this legendary feeling after such a long time. As Ling Tian's martial arts achieved breakthrough after breakthrough, Ling Tian's physique also strengthened greatly. In a certain area, he was no different from a living beast. At the start, the 2 ladies who were extremely shy could not endure Ling Tian's torture and had no choice but to forget about their shyness and join hands together. Even so, they were still tortured terribly by Ling Tian and they collapsed like a pile of mush. As for young noble Ling Tian and little young noble Ling, they were still as energetic as a dragon. Seeing the 2 beautiful figures beside him, Ling Tian almost could not resist the temptation to lie back in bed. After forcing himself to get up with a great deal of willpower, Ling Tian put on his clothes and walked out of the room. A piercing cold assaulted him from the outside and Ling Tian, who was already impervious to the heat and cold, let out a long breath. The endless snow was still falling and the world was filled with silence. A thick layer of snow was already formed on the ground. Ling Tian walked forward silently as though he was afraid to wake the sleeping heavens and earth up. Stepping into the boundless falling snow, the drifting snow fell on him and Ling Tian felt as though he had already become one with the entire world. At that moment, He felt that his mind was completely blank and only the mysteries of the world were left. He stood there silently and greedily felt the silence of the world. The sound of the breeze blew past his ears and Ling Tian could clearly hear the sound of the snow landing on the ground. The snow landing was like an infant diving into the embrace of his mother. Despite the scene before him being an extremely ordinary one, the mysteries of the world seemed to be contained within it. Ling Tian listened to the melody of the world attentively and could not help but be extremely moved in his heart. Unknowingly, tears began to roll down his cheeks. After who knows how long, perhaps it was a long while or perhaps only an instant, Ling Tian finally woke up from this mysterious feeling. Only then did he realize that there was a snowman not too far away from him. Ling Tian smiled as he wondered who was the one who would pile up a snowman in front of him. With doubt in his heart, Ling Tian looked around and was startled. The surroundings of the snowman were extremely flat and there wasn't a sign of any snow being moved or piled up. Isn't the appearance of this snowman too strange? Even if the one building the snowman had superb movement techniques, it would be extremely difficult to accomplish such a task. Ling Tian suddenly came to a realization and his sharp gaze landed on the body of the snowman with a knowing smile. Walking forward to the snowman, Ling Tian patted it on the head and said loudly, "My dear snowman, open sesame. The sun is already shining on your ass and it is time to wake up." With a ping, the thick layer of snow on the snowman dispersed and fell onto the ground. Inside, a snow-white figure was revealed looking at Ling Tian with a bright smile. With a gentle snort, she grabbed Ling Tian's arm and twisted it almost 180 degrees. Ling Tian let out a pitiful groan and grumbled hatefully, "I knew that it must be you." How playful. The person in the snowman was naturally the demoness Li Zu. In the world today, there weren't many who were capable of constructing a snowman before him without leaving behind a single trace. However, of all the experts in the world capable of achieving such a feat, Miss Li Zu was probably the only one who would disguise herself as a snowman. Li Zu rolled her eyes and snorted, "Young noble Ling, you really had the time of your life last night, right?" Hearing her tone, Ling Tian was certain that Miss Li Zu was definitely jealous. Ling Tian chuckled and he glanced at Li Zu's beautiful figure while stroking his chin. "I did indeed have a good time, but I did not enjoy myself to my heart's content. If this peerless country-toppling beauty before me is willing to take part as well, I would truly be able to enjoy myself to my heart's content. You greedy beast, treat road. You're dreaming." Li Zu's face flushed red and she stomped her feet angrily. With Ling Tian's lecherous gaze sweeping over her body, she felt as though her whole body was turning weak. Ling Tian said lecherously, "How am I being greedy? Even the people of the earth would know that a broken bar it is only a matter of time." He then turned around to escape. "You a broken bar beast, treat road. What do you mean by it's a matter of time?" Li Zu dashed forward and threw a snowball at Ling Tian. Ling Tian burst out laughing and ran even faster. These few days, Ling Tian was surrounded by beauties and the fire in his heart burned even brighter than before. His super powerful physique made it such that he was unable to enjoy himself thoroughly and did not have an avenue of release. Even after Ling Qian and Yu Bingyan almost fell unconscious from pleasure, little young noble Ling would still be alive and kicking without the slightest bit of weakness. This made young noble Ling extremely frustrated. Ling Tian did not wish to touch Yanzu yet because he had not settled matters with the Zhao family fully and their families were still at war. Currently, Yanzu must definitely be in a bad mood. After Ling Tian captured Zhao Fingying, Yanzu seemed even busier, but she never made any request to Ling Tian and had buried all of her frustrations in her heart. This truly made Ling Tian's heart ache. As for Shui Qian, he naturally could not touch her right now. As for the others like Princess Zhao Yu, Ling Tian still had a knot in his heart which would not be so easily undone. He did not know how he should face her at all and the only person who he could eat up right now was Li Zu. But for some strange reason, Li Zu had hidden all of her previous emotions and young noble Ling Tian would always be rejected. She would always say that she wasn't ready and wanted to wait for their wedding night. A broken bar. Ling Tian knew that this wasn't because of her having traditional thoughts but because she was being extremely jealous. However, in this world where men had the overwhelming authority, Li Zu did not have a choice but could only whine to Ling Tian with such methods. Ling Tian felt as though he was extremely unlucky. There were a bunch of peerless beauties surrounding him that were all within his grasp, but he was still unable to be satisfied. This was even more unbearable than being impotent. At the very least, he wouldn't need to think about it if he was impotent. But now that he was still able and extremely powerful, he'd broken bar. They always said that it was tough being a lady, but in fact, it was even tougher to be a man, especially a healthy man who was extremely vigorous but did not have an affair on the outside. Young noble Ling Tian grumbled about how a single wife was truly insufficient. Ling Tian sat in front of the window and fell into deep thought. Just how should he let Li Xui a broken bar? Perhaps at the time he can a broken bar enjoy to his heart's content? Being trapped within his fantasies, young noble Ling Tian could not help but smile lecherously. Young noble, a messenger from the Yu family is here. Ming Lij walked in and disrupted Ling Tian's beautiful dreams. Ling Tian, who was still trapped in his own imagination and dreams, flew into a rage of frustration. Chapter 619, Envoy of the Yu Family. What have you come here for? Ling Tian clenched his teeth as he stared at Ming Lij, wishing for nothing more than to pull off his entire beard in one go. Ming Lij shivered a little in response, and could not help but glance down at his own attire as well as think about what he said previously. Finding no faults, he was at a loss for words. Why did the young noble look at me as though he wanted to swallow me whole? I'm here to fetch Madame Yu Bingyan back, and furthermore, Yu Manlu wrote a letter to young noble. After checking himself repeatedly and ensuring that there was no problem, Ming Lij drew out a letter from his bosom. Read it. Ling Tian leaned on the side of his chair with an extremely ungainly manner as he replied, to young noble Ling, that day we parted at Bright Jade City. Your voice and appearance are still embedded within my heart. I do not know when will the two of us be able to drink together and discuss the myriad changes in life. Young noble must surely still remember the Northwestern battle. The agreement of 5 years, wagering with everything below the heavens. I think back often to that wager made under heaven and earth. How fast time has passed since then. When I think about the matters from then, I cannot help but feel the blood boiling inside me. Young noble is an outstanding person of this world, much more than I am, and can be considered as an outstanding person in this generation. Only by controlling all under the skies will we then not let down the ambition within our hearts. As for vying with each other for supremacy, even if it ends in failure, it will still be 100 times better as compared to the mundane men, living out their withered and rotten lives. The weather is cold and the snow has fallen, thus the soldiers cannot fight, and the unstable situation has settled for now. Next year, when the weather warms and the flowers open, it will be the Yu and Shui family generational battles. While niece Bing Yan is now your wife, she, after all, belongs to my Yu family. The battle has been long fixed, and cannot be changed. I've specially invited the 6 elders of my Yu family over to Skybearing in order to escort Bing Yan back. Young noble is a gentleman, and I believe you will not disappoint me. Ling Yan narrowed his eyes as he listened to the entire letter of Yu Manlu before snorting out loudly. He furiously replied, this old fogey Yu Manlu, he knows that Yu Bing Yan belongs to my Ling family, but he actually wants her to participate for the Yu family. Furthermore, he doesn't know that her divine black negative meridians have already been removed, so he obviously wants her to die so as to form a blood feud between me and the Shui family. Yet I have no grounds to reject this. Old man that refuses to die, this is the epitome of viciousness, but a brilliant plan. Ming Lij laughed out loud as he asked, since that's the case, then how should we reply to him? Ling Tian rubbed his forehead for a moment as he asked, regarding the assault on the Lei family, To what degree are our preparations? The first pavilion has achieved outstanding success each time they acted, and the Lei family now can be considered to have collapsed. While there are some remnants left over, they cannot cause any more large waves. Cannot cause any large waves? That will not do. Ling Tian ruthlessly spoke. Those who dare to shake my family's foundations, if I do not give them a good shake in response, wouldn't the world think that I, Ling Tian, am good to bully? So long as it's of the Lei family, raise it down. This matter has no grounds for negotiation. Taking his feet down from the table, Ling Tian snorted twice as he continued, Yu Manlu actually dares to make Bing Yan go out to battle, using this chance to sow discord between me and Water of Heavenly Wind. If he does not pay any price, then wouldn't that be going too easy on him? Tell the Yu family that I want the Lei family in return. All the lives of the survivors, even the elderly and the children, are not to be spared. If there's even one left over, I will not accede to his demands. Ming Lij couldn't help but curse in disagreement. Ling Tian obviously wanted to use the influence of the Yu family to achieve his goals, but his deeper meaning was to give a warning to those people sheltering under the Yu family as well as those vacillating small powers. As for Madame Yu Bingyan participating in the generational battle, it was something that Ling Tian had planned long ago, but he still wanted to use this chance to scam Yu Manlu. Ming Lij grumbled incessantly, but of course would not give voice to his thoughts. He could only grunt in assent and leave. Oh, wait a minute, who did the Yu family send this time? Ling Tian suddenly asked out. It seems to be the Colliding Heaven Pavilion's head, Yu Ran, as well as the 5 elders within the pavilion. A smile that was yet not a smile appeared on Ming Lij's face. He knew that since Ling Tian had asked, these few people were definitely going to have a tough time. They're all people with some fame to their name. People with fame to their name? A cold smile lurked on the corners of Ling Tian's mouth. Let Ling Jian go and entertain these famous characters, and tell him that he has to properly take care of them, with all his attention. How vicious. This was the first thought in Ming Lij's heart. To make Ling Jian go and welcome them, wasn't it as good as he himself ripping their skin off? For someone like Ling Jian who had once suffered a loss in the Yu family, how could he let go of such a heaven-gifted opportunity? Furthermore, this brat was a crazy killer addicted to bloodshed. Inside Ming Lij's dictionary, the name Ling Jian was synonymous with a perverted murderer. Before he even walked out of Ling Jian's study, he was already bemoaning the fate of the universe and mankind. He had already started to pray for those ambassadors of the Yu family, that a broken bar wouldn't die too quickly. A broken bar. This old man here wants to see a good and lasting show. A broken bar. Ever since the Colliding Heaven Pavilion head Yu Ran arrived in the Ling family courtyard, he had felt as though the atmosphere here was heavy and solemn. During the construction, the careful planning of Li Su had focused on bringing a sense of simple yet dignified solemnness to the entire architecture, integrating all of them with the main entrance into the mountain. This allowed everyone who was about to walk into the Ling family courtyard to subconsciously place their attention on the buildings, coming face to face with the arrogance akin to a monarch looking down upon the world. In the vicinity of the secret chamber, from top to bottom, there were numerous wall sections that were smoothed, with a carving of a couplet written on the sections. The upper verse was, "Who knows whom shall rule the universe?" And the lower verse was, "But the owner of this place controls the winds and clouds." And on the horizontal row of words, "Reign supreme below the heavens." These 3 sentences were not just shining due to splendor, but because Ling 5 had actually used a whole 1,000 ingots of gold and melted them to form the gold ink needed to fill these carvings. If the day was bright and sunny, the rays from the sun would shine down and reflect off the gold, as though creating a walkway of gold into the place. The couplets were the handiwork of our great Miss Li Su, but of course, since her handwriting was atrocious, the words were inscribed by Ling Tian instead. However, even though they were couplets, they did not act as antitheses to each other, but rather one could say that their purpose was to expand the aura of dignity and dominance. Of course, their only motive in doing the couplets was to flaunt their power. Thus in Li Su's heart, she gave no hoots about the conditions of the couplets needing to match. However, it was unknown why, but Ling Tian vehemently denied that she had ever personally carved these words a broken bar. Even though it was the time where snow flew all over the place, there were still people in charge of sweeping the area where the culprits were, to prevent a situation where they were covered by the snow. Now was already not the time to continue hiding. The strength of the Ling family courtyard was no longer afraid of any power in the world. As such, what they had to do now was to boldly and confidently step onto the world stage. I will rise and fall with the waves, looking down arrogantly on the world. The real cause behind Yu Ren feeling depressed was that in the guest hall which they had been shown to, if one looked out to the snow-covered fields, they would see these 14 words. They were roughly carved yet filled with a cold ray of light, as though it would pounce towards them at any given moment. This gave Yu Ren a feeling of indignance, making him unsatisfied. As a lofty Yu family elder, the head of the Colliding Heaven Pavilion, when had he ever suffered from such cold treatment? After coming to the Ling family, the person who received them was actually an icy cold lady in white robes, and together with her was a middle-aged man around 40 years of age. The man was polite, but at that time, Yu Ren already had a belly of anger. They had walked all the way into the Ling family courtyard without so much as a single person coming out to greet them, and it was actually the guards that had brought them over to this broken bar. This sort of undisguised disdain made Yu Ren extremely furious. The most infuriating matter was that the man surnamed Ming mentioned that he would go and report to the young noble, but he actually disappeared for such a long time. Meanwhile that cold and proud icy-faced lady sat on the main seat, without even the slightest hint of wanting to apologize, and had merely spoken 2 words since she sat down: "Sin tea." Should they bear with this, or not? After forcing themselves to endure for half a day, Yu Ren finally could take it no longer, and stood up with a face full of frost as he coldly asked, "Lady, may I ask, what time would the young noble Ling Tian arrive?" In the end, the Ling family is the owner of this place, so is it possible for someone in charge to come over? The white-robed lady was holding a book, seemingly engrossed with it. It was to the point that no one knew if she had heard what Yu Ren said, but she never lifted her head from start till end. Yu Ren was after all still an elder in the Yu family, so when had he ever received such treatment? He was so angered he nearly spat out blood, and his teeth ground together, providing unpleasant cracking sounds. His eyes looked as though they could shoot fire, his beard quivering non-stop. It seemed as though an eruption was imminent. At this time, the white-robed lady suddenly let out a small voice of assent, as though she had just noticed Yu Ren's question. She raised her head, an expression of innocence in her eyes as she replied, "What questions do you have? I can take over as the person in charge." "Oh, did you just ask me when young noble Ling Tian would come over?" "Yes, that's right." "I beg for answers from lady. I'm in a rush to fetch the little princess home. After all, the generational battle is about to begin, and it brooks no delay a broken bar." However, before Yu Ren could finish, the white-robed lady continued with another sentence that made him feel like spewing out all his blood. "A broken bar. But who can I ask to get an answer?" "You." "A broken bar." Yu Ren leapt out of his seat as he pointed at the lady, his fingers shaking in anger as he spat. "What's the meaning of this? Is this how the Ling family treats its guests? Didn't you say that you can make the decisions here? Please allow my family's little princess to meet with us, that you can at least agree, right?" His temper was already at the limits, and Yu Ren was ready to storm off in a rage. However, he suddenly recalled how the family had sincerely entrusted this task to him before he left the Ling family, and he forced his temper down. So long as he could see Yu Bingyan, then everything would be easier to settle. The white-robed lady in question was the great Miss Li Zhu, of course. She was already nursing a belly full of anger because of Ling Tian since the early morning, and when Ming Leach requested for her to accompany him to host the Yu family people, the reason was that Ling Chen seemed to have not gotten out of bed yet. A broken bar. Knowing the reason for Ling Chen's tardiness, Li Zhu's anger had already soared to the high heavens, and she had almost thrown Ming Li out on the spot. As such, she bore an icy look the whole day. However, to think that the Yu family people did not know what was good for them, to actually provoke the already unhappy Li Zhu, pushing her to the edge of exploding. Upon hearing his words, Li Zhu rolled her eyes and said, "How the Ling family hosts their guests is our own matter. Why, do you have a problem with this? Even if you have an issue, you had better swallow it back down. This is the Ling family, not the Yu family. I can make the decisions, but that is my problem, and you wanting to see your little princess is your own problem." Right after she finished, even before she could take a proper breath, she solemnly continued, "This is sky-bearing, not Bright Jade City. Understand? You're already so old, yet you cannot even understand this simple fact. You must have lived your life in vain." Yuran saw his world fade into darkness as he nearly fainted in anger. Chapter 620, Ling Tian receives guests. The elder by the side grunted with anger, "Since Miss is receiving guests here and says that you can make the decisions, you must be someone important in the Ling family. I wonder what rank Miss has in the Ling family courtyard? Why do you dare to act in such an unbridled manner? Where is your bearing of an aristocratic family, for you to treat a guest from afar as such? Aren't you afraid of becoming a joke in the world?" This question truly touched the taboo in Li Zhu's heart. Everyone in the Ling family courtyard had a proper rank and post except for Miss Li Xu, a broken bar. This made Li Zhu extremely frustrated in her heart. Now that salt was being poured on her wound, she could not help but fly into a rage. Li Zhu snorted and stood up to face the old geezer in front of her with a look of mockery. "Old geezer, is this how your Yu family behaves as a guest, acting in such a high and mighty manner in the master's place? Don't you know that you look as though you are trying to usurp the place of the master? Aren't you afraid of becoming a joke in the world? As for this Mrs. position in the Ling family, is that something for you to inquire about? Since I say that I can make the decisions, it means that I can make the decisions. What do you have to doubt? Do you have an ulterior motive? Look at how old you are already and you still have the cheek to inquire about a little girl? Darn old fogey, with such a large beard on your face, aren't you embarrassed in the slightest? You a broken bar, you a broken bar, you a broken bar." That old man's face cramped up as he pointed at Li Zhu with his finger trembling. All of a sudden, his eyes turned white and he actually fainted on the chair from his anger. The few from the Yu family who came to the Ling family were all elders of the Yu family. They usually acted in a high and mighty manner in the family and their word was law. Who would dare to retort them in the Yu family or anywhere else? How would the elder know that the lady in front of him would be so unreasonable? He was originally ferociously questioning Li Zhu for her crimes but ended up being retorted by Li Zhu to the point he was turned into a shameless old man. However, the lady in front of him was a young peerless beauty and with his status, he couldn't scold or beat her up. His anger could only be pent up in his heart as he fainted from anger. Miss Li Zhu was probably the first person to anger as Tian expert to the point he fainted from anger. Yuran was also angered to the point his limbs were trembling as he glared at Li Zhu. He stuttered for a long while but was unable to say a single word. Li Zhu glared at him with her anger finally vented. "You are still glaring at this young miss? You're truly a bunch of old fogies. Or is this the true colors of the Yu family elders? Do all of you think that this miss is extremely free? I shall not be accompanying all of you any longer." She then stood up and walked out without the intention of turning back. Bang! Yuran sat down and the armchair collapsed. He was indeed a Tian expert who could shatter a chair made of sandalwood by just sitting down. Pavilion head, the Ling family is going too far. Alas, actually dared to humiliate us as such. We must report this to the family head when we get back and wash away our humiliation today. Another elder cursed angrily. This old man truly thought too highly of himself. In the world today, there were probably only a few who were worthy of being humiliated by Miss Li Zhu. In the Yu family, Yu Man Lu and Yu Man Tang were probably the only two with such right. However, he actually thought that Li Zhu came here just to humiliate them. He was truly too arrogant. Letting out a soft groan, the elder, who was angered by Li Zhu to the point he fainted, woke up gradually. Before he opened his eyes, he grunted, "This old man will truly be angered to death." The 6 elders then discussed with a fervent rage about how the actions of the Ling family truly went too far. A cold snort then sounded from the doorstep, and this single snort made the 6 of them feel a huge pressure bearing on them. At the same time, the temperature in the room went down by a few degrees. This chilliness of this cold snort seemed to have chilled them all to the depths of their soul. Everyone felt as though they were standing naked on a freezing ice mountain. Expert, a peerless expert. Was it Ling Tian who arrived? The 6 of them were stunned as they looked towards the door. By the door, there was a white-robed teen. For the teen to wear white robes in this snowy weather, he looked as though he had become one with the drifting snow. His face was lean and his eyes were like lightning. His face was chilly to the point a layer of ice could probably be scraped off it. Standing in front of the door, he glared at the 6 Yu family elders coldly and was obviously in a bad mood. The faces of the 6 elders turned red. After all, it was a shameful thing for someone to hear them cursing people behind their back. Furthermore, the one who overheard them was the one who they were cursing. At the same time, they grumbled to themselves in their hearts, "Did someone die at home? Why is everyone wearing white?" Right at this moment, the white-robed teen took a step forward and walked in. Yuran forced a smile and cupped his fists. "May I ask if Sir is young noble Ling Tian?" The white-robed teen rolled his eyes and sized up Yuran before asking with a mighty tone, "You're Yuran?" Yuran had the sudden urge to sink his fists into the chilly face of this young teen. What is this nonsense? Why does everyone from the Ling family act in such a manner? Even the Yu family head, Yu Man Lu, would never talk to me this way. I asked you something. Didn't you hear me? The white-robed teen took 2 steps forward and rolled his eyes. Are you deaf? Have your 5 senses dulled with age? The 6 elders trembled from anger yet again. In fact, they should actually feel proud. Even in the Ling family, there were extremely few people that this white-robed teen would initiate a conversation with. One of the elder could no longer hold in his anger and stepped forward with rage. How rude! Even if our families are currently enemies with each other, we came from afar without evil intentions or the intention to battle. What is the meaning of humiliating us time and time again? Even if you are the husband of our little princess, you do not have the right to be so rude. He paused for a moment and shouted, "Your Ling family has to give us an answer for the matter today." An answer? The white-robed teen sneered before walking forward to the master's seat. What kind of an answer do you want? Why don't you guys ask yourselves what kind of an intention your Yu family has? You guys had better not feign ignorance. Even if all of you feign ignorance, the world is extremely clear on all your doings. Your Yu family first made use of young madam to try and seize our Ling family but failed. Then, you guys instructed the Lei family to ambush us. Now you actually still have the cheek to receive young madam back to fight for your Yu family. I am truly curious if your Yu family even knows what justice is. Young madam, you a broken bar, you aren't Ling Tian? The 6 elders looked at each other with shock. They were shocked that there was actually another young expert apart from Ling Tian in the Ling family. This truth was truly baffling. Is young noble someone who you guys can see as you wish? Who do you guys think you are? The white-robed teen looked at them with disdain and annoyance in his eyes. If these words were said by Ling Tian, with Ling Tian having the same status as Yu Man Lu currently, they would just swallow the humiliation and treat it as part of their mission. However, the one in front of them was not Ling Tian, and he actually dared to humiliate them this way. This filled Yuran with a sense of humiliation that he had never felt for close to 20 years. This immense sense of humiliation had almost driven him mad. "Sir, who are you?" Yuran controlled his trembling voice and asked with killing intent. "I am Ling Jian." Ling Jian looked at him with interest. "Have you heard of my name?" Ling Jian, a broken bar. Yuran searched for that name in his head before shaking his head. I haven't heard of you." In fact, there weren't many in the Ling family courtyard who knew about Ling Jian. Apart from the upper echelons of the courtyard, no one else knew about his existence. Even in the Yu family, the information they had on Ling Jian was also extremely simple. Ling Jian was just a study attendant who had accompanied Ling Tian since he was young. Someone with a status like Yuan would naturally not be concerned about a little study attendant. If not for Ling Jian's stunning aura, the six of them would not notice him either. It was a pity that Yuan did not know that this study attendant had another identity that was enough to scare them all to death. Ling Jian flew into a huge rage. "I, Ling Jian, am famous all over the world, and who wouldn't know my name? You actually dare to say that you have never heard of me before? This is the greatest insult to me. Old fogey, you actually dare to insult me as such? I will not let this matter rest." Ling Jian's words weren't wrong or exaggerated at all. The name of the first pavilion head was truly world famous, and there wasn't a person in the world who didn't know of him. However, the name Ling Jian, a broken bar, there really weren't many who knew of that name. If Yuan was not familiar with the information of the Ling family, he wouldn't know who Ling Jian was. Thus, Ling Jian made use of this to fly into a rage. He had also racked his head to come up with this reason, even if it was a little ridiculous. Yuan was enraged. Ever since his arrival, he was treated coldly by the Ling family time and time again. He was first humiliated by the white-dressed lady who came out of nowhere, and before he could vent his anger, the white-dressed lady disappeared without a trace. Just when he was still in a state of extreme frustration, another unknown character actually dared to come out and humiliate him. On top of that, he had actually said that it was an insult for his name not to be known. He actually dared to say that he would never let the matter rest. You can find a few others to ask if they know who Ling Jian is. Do you think anyone would know who you are? However, this old man knows about you. Aren't you the study attendant of that little thief Ling Tian? What a noble status. He was angered to the point he burst out into laughter. Why, a servant of the Ling residence is going to teach us a lesson? Chapter 621, Snowball. Ling Jian's face changed and he shouted out with arrogance, "So what if this daddy wants to teach all of you a lesson?" Alright. Yuan was filled with killing intent. Let this old man experience the might of an individual besides young noble Ling Tian. Before he finished his sentence, a short and short-tempered elder of the Yu family shot out of the door and stood in the middle of the snow. "Little B Street Road Ling Jian, get out here. Your daddy here will teach you how to act like a servant." Ling Jian frowned as he looked at the short and round figure in the snow and mocked, "Sending such a character out in this weather is truly fitting. He is truly the best person to roll into a snowball." "It is still too early to talk about who is going to become the snowball," Yuan said with a mellow tone. Ling Jian walked forward slowly and stood in front of the stumpy elder with a bloodthirsty killing intent. The words of this elder had truly incited the killing intent in his heart. However, Ling Tian had already given him the order to control his strength and had forbidden him to kill any of them. Ling Jian suddenly let out a clear roar. The sound of footsteps could suddenly be heard from all directions. There were both young and old, chattering as they gathered towards the little yard. In just a short while, the whole yard was filled with a bunch of people looking forward to witnessing a good show. There were even a few young ladies who took out stools to take a seat while watching the show. "These a broken bar, just what do you mean by this?" The stumpy elder was shocked. "Oh, it has been a long time since I exchanged pointers with someone and they are all here to watch the show," Ling Jian said in a carefree manner. "Watch your majesty, don't you mean your impotence?" The six elders cursed with disdain in their hearts. "Don't you know of our origins, relying on your status as Ling Tian's little study attendant to throw your weight around? The few of us do not belong to your Ling family and will not allow a little brat like you to do as you wish." Even if this old man takes care of you, we will still be in the right when we face Ling Tian. Ling Jian, you will pay a price for your actions and words. Even if young noble Ling Tian is here, I believe that he will agree with this old man teaching you a lesson. Hurry up and count out to admit your mistakes. If you are able to move this old man with your sincerity, this old man will spare your life. The stumpy elder stood in the middle of the boundless snow and emanated the aura of a top-notch expert. With so many people observing the battle, the stumpy elder naturally had to maintain his disposition. He did not even let out a single expletive and maintained his elegance of an aristocratic family's elder. He had to maintain his elegance before taking action and leave Ling Jian with a chance. Ling Jian stood in front of him with his hands behind his back and watched the stumpy elder coldly before shaking his head. Teach me a lesson. You will know what it means to pay the price later. Old fogey, come and fight me if you wish. If you don't wish to fight, I shall go back and have some tea. Old man, for you to come to Skybearing from afar, isn't it because you wanted to display your skills? After following Ling Tian for such a long time, Ling Jian did indeed learn plenty of things. At the very least, he was able to say such words with depth. Of course, saying is one thing, but whether or not he understood was another. Seeing that you are only a servant of young age, if you are willing to kowtow and accept your mistakes, this old man shall forgive you with magnanimity this time. The stumpy elder had his arms behind his back as he tried acting cruel. Despite his watermelon-like figure, he was trying his best to put on a suave appearance. However, it was a pity that the difficulty of that was far too high. Incurable, Ling Jian sighed. All of a sudden, his body shook and he charged forward. His speed wasn't too fast, at the very least, it wasn't fast when compared to his usual speed. The stumpy elder sneered, seeking death. At the same time, he took a step forward and unleashed his full speed as well. He had already decided that even if he was going to use a large cleaver to kill this little chicken before him, he would use all of his strength to take down this despicable servant in front of him. He wanted to use his most elegant martial techniques to give the little brat a heavy blow. Their two figures weaved together in the boundless snow as they launched their attacks against each other. Pa! A crisp sound echoed. He originally thought that the other party was like an egg attacking a rock, but the truth was that Ling Jian was like a rock attacking an egg. The stumpy elder held on to his right cheek and collapsed onto the ground. Ling Jian landed on the ground in an elegant manner and with a snap of his right finger, cheers roared from all direction. Right before the two of them exchanged blows, Ling Jian suddenly sped up by 2 times at the very least. The stumpy elder was completely unable to react in time and was sent flying by Ling Jian's slap. Originally, even if this stumpy elder wasn't a match for Ling Jian, he shouldn't have been defeated in a single exchange. His defeat was completely due to the fact that he underestimated the enemy. If not for Ling Tian instructing Ling Jian to not harm the life of the Yu family's elders, this stumpy elder would have been dead from that single mistake. Yu Ran's expression was as dull as the dark clouds. Looking at Ling Jian, his eyes flashed with rage. He already understood that this so-called study attendant was feigning a pig to eat the tiger. The speed at which he took action was one that only a peerless expert would be able to display. Yu Ran could still feel a lingering sense of fear when thinking about the speed that Ling Jian displayed. He suddenly turned to look at a green-dressed lady beside him. May I ask, miss, if this Ling Jian is truly young noble Ling Tian's study attendant? The green-dressed lady looked at Yu Ran and as though she was stifling her laughter, she nodded her head and said, "That's right, Brother Jian is indeed young noble's personal study attendant. Who in the Ling residence doesn't know about this? The information network of the Yu family is world famous and you guys should be aware of this. Right?" The young lady was filled with disdain in her heart. "Darn old fogey, you are actually thinking of fishing for information from me? You must be blind." However, what she said wasn't a lie either. While Ling Jian had a status in the courtyard only second to both Ling Tian and Ling Chen, he was indeed Ling Tian's study attendant in name. After all, Ling Jian felt that nothing could be a match for being Ling Tian's study attendant. Yu Ran replied with a no before saying in a distracted manner, Who would have thought that even young noble Ling Tian's study attendant would have such a high level of martial arts? Young noble Ling Tian is indeed surrounded by experts. Is Brother Jian's martial arts at a high level? The green-dressed lady asked with doubt. Young noble is naturally surrounded by experts. However, the other guards only showed him face because he had grown up with young noble since he was young. Among the 300 personal guards of young noble, Brother Jian is nothing. If we really want to rank them, Brother Jian would definitely be ranked at the very end. The weakest one? The weakest one was actually able to win against an elder of the Colliding Heaven Pavilion. Not to mention anyone else, even Yuran himself wasn't confident of absolute victory if he took action. For there to be 300 experts even more powerful than Ling Jian, could he be dreaming? Yuran felt his heart shake and his fingers trembled. The green-dressed lady looked around like a little lass who had made a mistake and stammered, a broken bar, actually a broken bar. All of that may not be true. All of these are the secrets of the Ling family courtyard and I have only heard rumors about them. You must not treat what I said as true. Broken bar. After laughing dryly for a moment, the young lady then ran away to the side. At the same time, she almost burst out laughing as she thought, see how I scare all of you to death. This green-dressed lady was Shui Qian'er's personal maid. Dear. The Shui and Yu family were mortal enemies and now that she had the chance to tease them, how would she let it go to waste? She naturally bragged about the Ling family's strength as much as she could. Seeing the look of shock on Yuran's face, Dear was naturally overjoyed. Was Ling Tian's strength truly so unfathomable? Such an organization was just far too frightening. Yuran's face was extremely dull. The look of fear in the little lass's eyes as though she was trying to cover something up had erased the last trace of doubt that Yuran had. In the snow, the stumpy old man let out a roar and stood up. He looked as though he wanted to swallow Ling Jian alive as he wiped off a trace of blood from his lips. Good breath. You truly concealed yourself well. This old man underestimated you. However, you better not be delighted. From now on, you will not be able to take advantage of me. Ling Jian let out a long sigh and had a look of helplessness. I will admit that if we are going to fight with our lips, I will not be able to take advantage of you. If we are going to fight with the thickness of our skin, I would not be a match for you at all. Ling Jian looked at the stumpy old man with pity. Your attainments in these two areas are truly at the peak of perfection. I never expected that there would be someone with skin as thick as the city walls. My eyes have truly been opened today. You are seeking death. Hand your life over. As he roared, he pounced forward with frustration. How would Ling Jian be afraid of him? Ling Jian charged forward as well, speeding up a notch, and a series of clashing sounds could be heard in the air. Following that, a figure like a round ball crashed down from the sky and rolled around in the snow. In just a short while, the figure had actually rolled a few rounds in the snow and turned into a huge snowball. Ling Jian's figure then flashed in the sky and landed on the ground. He then revealed a bright smile and said, "How round." In a battle between experts, even the slightest bit of difference was like the difference of 1,000 miles. Even though Ling Jian increased his speed only slightly, it was out of the stumpy elder's expectations again. How could he not experience defeat? He had once again lost to Ling Jian in a single blow. Yuran snorted and his figure flashed out to stop the rolling snowball. With a simple palm, an odd human figure was revealed. The legs of the stumpy elder were locked behind his neck and his arms were curled around his ass. His head was inserted into his pants and his originally round figure looked completely like a ball at this moment. Even after his rolling figure was stopped, his ridiculous posture was still maintained. Yuran's face turned ugly and after slapping the stumpy elder a couple of times, the stumpy elder regained his consciousness. While the stumpy elder did not suffer from any severe injuries, he was a respected figure in the Yu family who had never suffered such humiliation in the past 10 years. After regaining his consciousness, he spat out another mouthful of blood in anger, and then he fell unconscious again from anger. Chapter 622, Put on an Act. Yuan carefully moved his hands and feet back to their original positions. He completely relaxed his body before he straightened up and faced Ling Tian. There was no emotion on his face as he said, "Sire's skills are indeed profound, but to treat guests from afar this way, isn't it too much?" As the saying goes, to kill someone is as easy as nodding one's head. For you to humiliate this poor elder here, don't tell me you can still have a clear conscience. Ling Tian coldly looked at him as he replied, "A man should strive to be a man of character, and treat whatever he utters seriously. Earlier on I said I would let him be a snowball. If I can't even do that, then wouldn't I be eating my words? While I might be uneducated, I do know that in life, one is nothing if nobody trusts their word. Furthermore, didn't Sire say that it was undetermined who would turn into a snowball at the end? How did it suddenly turn into me forcing this situation onto others? If I had lost previously, then the one being made into a snowball would be me. This is a just and fair matter, unless you tell me the way your Yu family acts is so unreasonable." Yuan glared at him, but midway, he started to mockingly laugh as he said, "That's right, inside the martial community, it has always been the rule of the strong, whose fist is bigger is the correct one. Since that's the case, then how about letting this old man here exchange a move or two with you? Do you have the guts to accompany me?" The moment he finished, his right hand shifted and pressed on the hilt of his sword. At the same time, an awe-inspiring pressure was emitted from him. The rage inside Yuan's heart was already clamoring to be vented, and at this moment, he could care less about the urges of his family head. The only thought left inside his heart was to shred this hateful fellow in front of him to bits and pieces, even if this place was to be his grave. No matter if the youth in front of him accepted or rejected the challenge, Yuan was determined to kill him. "He wants to fight with me through the way of the sword?" Ling Tian disdainfully smiled. "This guy really doesn't know how to choose his way of dying. Since Sire has no objection, then prepare to take my strike. Live or die, victory or defeat, all shall be determined by the heavens. The blade is merciless, be careful." Yuan's voice sounded like a frigid gale coming from a perpetually frozen winterland, carrying with it boundless killing intent. Since he spoke this way, it meant that he was ready to take this to the end. "Do you wish to die?" Ling Tian only looked at him quietly. "Do you think that your life is too worthless since you're already so old? If you stop your hand now, you might still have several good years of life left." "Junior, go to hell." With a clink sound, a white flash of light was seen as Yuan's sword left its sheath. His figure following the trajectory of the sword was like a dragon swimming through the air as he stabbed towards Ling Tian. While the movement techniques displayed by Ling Tian previously were mystical and eccentric, Yuan still believed that he could deal with them. Furthermore, if Ling Tian's martial arts were only limited to what he showed earlier, then Yuan believed that within 10 moves, he could kill Ling Tian. Since he was the head of the entourage sent by the Yu family, his capabilities were definitely better than that of the short fat elder. A pity, he was mistaken about one thing. What a person displayed on the surface might not be his actual strength. An easy smile appeared on Ling Tian's face, and he did not evade nor move, but rather leapt into the sword light like a wisp of smoke, weaving inside as though it was his own backyard. The difference was, his speed had undoubtedly increased by a notch. "Pa!" Ling Tian flashed out of the sword light in the next moment, and from his spot far away, he blandly replied, "Did you think that you were my opponent? I just merely did not wish to kill you." On Yuan's face, there was a clear palm print. Utter humiliation. Yuan felt so ashamed, he wanted to kill himself. His teeth ground together with cracking noises as his eyes glared at Ling Tian, as though he wanted to swallow him whole. This was especially so after the sentence spoken by Ling Tian, "I just merely did not wish to kill you." This gave an unspeakable sense of humiliation to this old man in front of all the audience present. This was worse than killing him outright. What a despicable and evil person. Yuan had thrown his reasoning out of the window at this point. He did not care about anything, not even the fact that Ling Tian had martial abilities far outstripping his. He only wanted to put his life at stake. "What's happening around here? Why is it in such a mess?" A light and yet seemingly strict voice suddenly sounded out, Why are there so many people surrounding this area? All of you, retreat. The moment this sentence rang out, all the audience happily watching a good show immediately disappeared, and in that instant, the courtyard turned spick and span. A white-robed youth slowly walked over from afar. Surrounded by billowing snow and winds, he resembled an immortal that had descended from the heavens, treading the wind and snow on his way down. That person was precisely Ling Tian. Seeing that the situation was moving towards an irrevocable state, this young noble Ling finally chose to appear and deal with the aftermath. Ling Tian, I asked you to come out and see what had happened. But why have you gone off to play here? You still have to help me to grind the inkstone. How infuriating. Ling Tian seemed as though he was in a fine temper. This young noble here just had the inspiration for an outstanding poem, and I was waiting all along for you to help me make my ink. To think that you still have the time to jump around like a monkey. As punishment, I want you to copy out the 1000-character classic 10 times. And you will not get any meals until you're done. Ling Tian lowered his head, as though he did not dare to talk anymore, with an indignant look. Where was there still that arrogant demeanor of his? Right now, Yuran was still infuriated, so how was he willing to let the matter rest just like that? He viciously spat out, so you're young noble Ling? The way your Ling family treats their guests is really a broken bar. Before he could finish speaking, he was actually interrupted by Ling Tian, who faced him beaming as he exclaimed, I believe this must be the famed Yuran, Elder Yu, am I right? I've long heard of your great name, resounding in the ears like thunder. Your name hangs bright like the moon in the sky, and seeing you in person today, I must say that your person outstrips your reputation. This is truly a justified reputation. Ha ha. Yuran turned red in embarrassment at the words. His face still bore the fresh imprint of being slapped, and hearing Ling Tian's words, this Ling Tian seemed to actually be his study assistant. There were no discrepancies with his own family's notice or broken bar, but to say that his name resounded like thunder at this moment, it was nothing more than venomous sarcasm. This kid is indeed vicious. Please allow me to first teach this kid a lesson before meeting up with Elder to converse. Ha ha. Ling Tian turned around, and his face immediately changed as his voice grew harsh. Ling Tian, you little rascal, getting more and more disobedient now, are we? Running around day and night, causing trouble everywhere you go, whatever next? If it was not for you following me for so many years, I would have long ago chased you off. Look at how you made Elder Yu angry. You're to copy the 1000-word classic once more, for a total of 11 times today. Do you understand? This subordinate accepts his punishment, and he is convinced with it. Ling Tian lowered his head, drooping it as though he was completely deflated of his ego. Still not retreating, Ling Tian waved his sleeves angrily, his voice booming out. Yes. Ling Tian's figure flashed and he immediately vanished from the spot. The two of them seamlessly played out this act, with unbelievable speed and at an unbelievable rhythm. In the time taken for a person to finish a sentence, they had already exchanged 2 or 3 sentences, and this act of deceiving oneself had passed just like that a broken bar. During the process, Yuran and company were all stunned with their mouths wide open, and they seemed like they wanted to say something. But Ling Tian did not even give them half a chance to speak. From his display of lashing out severely at him, to giving out the punishment, and finally chasing him off, it happened before the 6 of them could even react. By the time they realized something, Ling Tian had long disappeared. Study assistant, punishing him to copy the 1000-word classic. Ling Tian, are you crazy? How powerful you might be. It could not have reached the point where you could casually make such an expert into your study assistant. Furthermore, the Ling family courtyard consists of over 1,000 people, so how could there only be one study assistant attached to you? This farce is a little too exaggerated. In addition, for forgetting to help you grind your ink, you punished him to copy the classics 10 times, but only once for offending us? What kind of bull was this? Even if you wanted to put on a show, there was no need to make it so excessive, right? He, I've made a fool of myself. Ling Tian apologetically laughed. That bunch of rascals are all like that. If they don't get scolded, they won't feel comfortable. I've already harshly punished him. Hey guys, to control a family is too hard. I have to worry about every single small little thing, and nobody can leave me at ease with them. This is such a headache. I've definitely become a laughingstock in front of all you elders. The 6 of them were so angered by this, they clenched their teeth so hard that they almost cracked. However, on the surface, they managed to smile and laugh along as they replied, "No problem, it's just a servant. We won't put it to heart." I really can't feel at ease leaving them alone. Ling Tian sighed once more, before suddenly recalling something and opening his eyes wide at them as he continued, "Just look at me, I only just recalled. Just now, there were so many people here. What exactly happened?" Yuan almost vomited blood in response. This Ling Tian really knows what to ask. Just now there were so many people present and yet you did not bother to stop a single one of them. And you chased them away before asking us? Do you wish for us to recount our own humiliation? This is taking it too far. Oh, I apologize for the offense, Ling Tian sincerely said. How about this? I'll gather everyone back here and interrogate them one by one. Relax, I'll be fair in front of all the people present. And if they really offended my esteemed guests, then I, Ling Tian, will gather all of living things present here and punish them for everyone to see, in order to vent your frustration. How about that? Chapter 623, I Want the Lei Family. Haze. Ling Tian let out a long sigh with a solemn and sincere expression. Bing Yan and I fell in love with each other at first sight and our love is as deep as the ocean. The two of us are only able to come together after going through trials and tribulations. Just as the saying goes, one who has ambitions will definitely fulfill his wishes, cutting off all roads of retreat. A broken bar. A broken bar. The heavens will not let down the earnest-hearted, we will maintain our hearts for revenge. A broken bar. Bing Yan and I would keep each other company every day and are in perfect harmony with each other. We will respect each other in marriage, an affectionate couple flying wing to wing into the horizon, gelled to each other like glue and never separating in our life. A broken bar. Ling Tian had almost recited the whole of Pu Song Ling's poem without missing a single word. The 6 elders felt all of their hair stand up and goosebumps all over their body. If this was said by someone else to praise Yu Bing Yan's relationship with Ling Tian, while it was flattery, it was still understandable. However, Ling Tian had actually bragged about it on his own and it was truly amusing. What does young noble Ling mean? Yuan quickly interrupted Ling Tian's endless speech and had the urge to cover his ears. I really can't bear to let her go. A look of pain could be seen on Ling Tian's face as though he was about to have a life or death parting with Yu Bing Yan. These broken bar. Bing Yan is my wife. How can I bear to let her do something so dangerous? Yuan's expression changed and he had already expected that Ling Tian would definitely create trouble for him. He then heard Ling Tian continuing, A broken bar. However, since the Yu family is pleading to me earnestly, I really shouldn't be stopping this matter, but the pain in my heart is truly unbearable. The 6 Yu family elders cursed together in their thoughts. Who is pleading to you? Do you think that you are worthy? Ling Tian looked at Yuan and said emotionally, Elder Yu, if you were in my shoes, could you bear to send your wife to her death? Yuan was immediately enraged. What is the meaning of this? A broken bar. Besides that, there aren't any benefits either. A broken bar. Ling Tian let out a desolate sigh. Only a fool would agree to something so foolish. While I am not someone intelligent, I am definitely not a fool, right? The 6 of them were angered by Ling Tian's shamelessness to the point smoke could be seen coming out from their 7 orifices. After talking for so long, you just want to have some benefits? Rather than beating about the bush for such a long time, you might as well say it in a straightforward manner from the start. Your shamelessness is truly unmatched in the world. May I ask, young noble Ling, cough cough, just what kind of benefits do you want? Just what must we do to let the little princess return with us? Yuan had a belly full of anger. Benefits? What do you mean by that? Ling Tian flew into a rage. Do you think that the relationship between me and Bing Yan can be measured by benefits? This is the biggest humiliation to our sincere relationship. This matter shall come to an end right now. Ling Tian had an angry expression and he looked as though he was thoroughly enraged. A broken bar, this old man didn't watch my words just now, and I hope that young noble Ling will forgive me. Yuan was filled with displeasure as he cursed Ling Tian for erecting a chastity monument despite being a whore. This brat in front of him was without a doubt the most shameless person in the world. However, both of our families are in laws with each other, and if young noble Ling has a problem, you can just let us know. We are not outsiders after all. I see. Ling Tian calmed his anger down. If that's the case, I shall not stand on ceremony. Since when have you stood on ceremony? The 6 elders cursed together. A while ago, the Lei family received news from an unknown source and found out that the little princess of the Yu family was currently staying in the Ling family courtyard. These thieves actually had the guts to invade the Ling family courtyard in an attempt to kill Bing Yan. Our Ling family fought a bitter battle in order to defeat the assaulting enemies before being able to protect the safety of the little princess. Ling Tian had a look of grief on his face. However, our casualties were heavy and our Ling family courtyard had been almost turned into a wasteland. The accumulation of 3 generations of our Ling family was plundered by the Lei family thieves, and we had more than 100,000 casualties. Cough cough cough. A broken bar. Yuan began coughing incessantly. How shameless. Too shameless. Yuan finally understood what it truly meant to be shameless. The Lei family obviously intended to wipe out the Ling family courtyard. What has it got to do with the little princess of our Yu family? Why is it such that their mission is suddenly to assassinate our little princess? Isn't the ability of this brat to turn lies into the truth too exaggerated? Besides that, while your Ling family courtyard isn't small, holding 100,000 soldiers is complete nonsense. Not to mention having more than 100,000 casualties. If that was truly the case, your Ling family would have probably been wiped out from the world already. Besides that, the Ling residence wasn't attacked at all and the accumulation of your Ling family wasn't plundered in the slightest. As for the Ling family courtyard being turned into a wasteland, a broken bar. Yuan let out a long sigh as he looked around. Have you ever seen such a beautiful wasteland? For the Lei family to perform such a deed, they are indeed the enemies of the world. With such malicious intentions of theirs, they are the common enemy of both our Yu and Ling family, Ling Tian said with righteousness. Thus, they must pay the price. What young noble means? A broken bar. Yuan's face turned ugly. He could already guess what Ling Tian meant. We have already begun our revenge operation against the Lei family, but there is a portion of the Lei family members in your Yu family's territory. It really isn't convenient for us to take action. Ling Tian's smile became cold. I want all the heads of those from the Lei family, regardless of man or woman, young or old, not a single less. Yuan took in a breath of cold air and cold sweat filled his back. Our Ling family has already made the necessary preparations and the rest would be your Yu family's affair. However, your Yu family still has not made a move until now and I am getting impatient. Ling Tian chuckled coldly. If you want me to allow your Yu family to bring Bing Yan back, you will have to first hand over the heads of the Lei family. There isn't any room for discussion. Of course, you are allowed to reject me as well. The decision will lie in your hands. Yuan was immediately stuck in a dilemma. He already knew that he would definitely face troubles in his trip to Skybearing, but never expected for the trouble to be such a huge one. The Lei family attacking the Ling family was under the orders of the Yu family. However, Ling Tian's condition was for the Yu family to hand over the heads of the Lei family members. If the Yu family agreed to it, who would dare to work together with the Yu family again. But if they do not agree to Ling Tian's condition, Ling Tian would use that as an excuse to keep their little princess behind and forbid her from taking part in the generational battle. While the Yu family wouldn't necessarily lose because of that, they would be going back on their word. They had already fixed the participants a few years back, and Yu Bingyan was the only lady in the Yu family's younger generation. Wouldn't they become a joke for the world? Besides that, the Shui family had an old enmity with the Yu family, and the Yu family wouldn't be able to endure the humiliation from such a huge blunder. Furthermore, their family head, Yu Manlu, wanted to make use of this opportunity to send Yu Bingyan to her death so that the Ling family and Water of Heavenly Wind would be enemies. If they did not succeed a broken bar, Ling Tian had insisted that the Yu and Ling family were opposed to the Lei family in his words. Could it be that he was supposed to jump out and admit that the Lei family was working under the orders of the Yu family? It was impossible for them to do that, and if they did, it would be impossible for Ling Tian to allow Yu Bingyan to go with the aim at broken bar. The expressions of the six elders turned bitter. Currently, they no longer had the effort to think about their previous humiliation and had their brows furrowed in frustration. A broken bar, young noble Ling. Cough cough, a broken bar. The few of us will not be able to make such a decision. Yuran could only choose to stall for time. Oh, that's alright. How about this? I will write a letter to your Yu family head for him to make a decision. Ling Tian chuckled. There's no rush at all. I have plenty of time. After all, the decision rightfully lies in the hands of your Yu family. The six elders were about to burst out into tears. While you have plenty of time, we don't. Decision rights? What kind of dogshti decision rights do we have? Ling Tian's brush strokes were like a dancing dragon and his words were like the towering mountains. However, the content of the letter was extremely simple. I want the heads of the Lei family, all of them. Since the Yu family said that they were rushed for time, Ling Tian decided to not call for his study attendant but write the letter on his own. As the six elders watched Ling Tian pen the letter, all of them looked as though they had eaten a mouthful of SHT. Ling Tian folded the letter and handed it over to Yu Ren with a friendly tone. All of you elders are truly the esteemed guests of our Ling family. I shall make the arrangements to prepare the best guest rooms for all of you. Please do not stand on ceremony and eat whatever you wish. All of you elders can treat this place like your own home. Right, all of you don't seem to have a lot of time. Ling Tian then paused for a moment before reminding them with a tinge of embarrassment. Even if all of you are busy, it is still important to take care of your physical needs. You will still have to rush back later. If you have some broken bar special needs, a broken bar do not stand on ceremony. While my Ling family don't specialize in this industry, we are still understanding individuals. We aren't too far from the few brothels in the city, and there is a secret location to fulfill all of your hidden fetishes or broken bar. If elders are interested, I can point the way for you. While our Ling family members are concerned about our purity, it wouldn't be too much for us to point the way to you. Broken bar, of course. All of you are already getting older and your bodies probably aren't so needy. I'm sorry for saying something in the wrong way. If there isn't anything else, I shall take my leave first. If your esteemed family head knew of the benefits that I am offering all of you, he would definitely thank me with a long letter. However, such basic hospitality is still necessary, Ling Tian said with righteousness. Brothels, special needs, secret locations, physical needs. Yuran and the other elders were on the verge of exploding. Your Ling family still dares to talk about your purity? When they were about to burst out in rage, they heard about Ling Tian talking about their old age and did not even have the energy to blow up. Regardless of their age, as a man, how would they be able to accept someone talking about their inability? The few Yu family elders had the urge to use the worst method to prove their abilities. However, they finally managed to suppress their anger with their willpower. Chapter 624, Joyous and Harmonious. Yuan replied with a strange tone and fake smile, "How can we trouble young noble Ling for such little things?" Ling Tian replied with a tone of shock, "Could it be that the few of you who came to Skybearing this time are experts in the trade?" Ling Tian was flaunting my knowledge in front of the true experts previously, and I seek your forgiveness. Without waiting for the elders to reply to him, Ling Tian walked out of the room. In the room, the 6-8 true experts looked at Ling Tian's departing figure with their mouths open in speechless shock. A long while later, a series of curses exploded forth from the room, and the elders were even better at it than the little hoodlums on the streets or Broken Bar. If their resentment could kill, even a dozen Ling Tians wouldn't be sufficient. If their flames of rage could burn, Skybearing would definitely be engulfed in a sea of flame right now. A long while later, Yuan collapsed into the armchair weakly and said, "Old 5 and 6, the two of you are to return to the family at top speed to inform the family head. You must inform us of his decision at the fastest possible speed. This old man no longer has the face to meet family head, and I do not wish to stay in this place for a second longer." Broken Bar. Ling Tian whistled as he walked in the snow, feeling extremely delighted. Upon thinking about Yuan Lu's expression after seeing his letter, Ling Tian could not help but be filled with delight. As he walked in the snow, he suddenly remembered that Yuan Lu took in a new concubine under his urging. Who knows if this Yu family head was diligent during this period? Thinking about that, Ling Tian's body began to heat up and his little brother seemed to be raising his head. He immediately stopped walking and changed his direction towards Ling Tian's office. As he walked over, he began fantasizing about having some office romance in the snowy Broken Bar. His saliva began drooping down from the corner of his lips. There wasn't anyone in the room. Young noble Ling, who had a belly full of lust, had no place to vent it. Seeing Ling Tian's office empty, he rubbed his nose for a moment before another idea sprouted in his head. He then walked towards Yu Bingyan's room but was disappointed again. How strange! In the freezing winter, where would these two lasses be? Ling Tian scratched his head and out. "Haze, if I am unable to find anyone, I shall go and tease the little beauty of the Zhao or Shui family. Even if I cannot have a real battle with them, it would be fun to tease them still." Making a loop around the courtyard, Ling Tian stood in the snow with depression. He wasn't able to find a single one of them. He still hadn't checked Miss Li Zhu's room. However, Ling Tian would not go to Li Zhu's room at this moment, as that demoness was still at the peak of her anger. She definitely had a belly full of jealousy last night and he still teased her this morning. Then, she was further angered by Yuan in the afternoon at Broken Bar. Currently, Li Zhu was like a volcano on the verge of erupting. Wouldn't he be seeking trouble for himself if he found her now? It was best that he didn't tease her now, lest he ended up burning himself. Of course, Ling Tian still had another solution in the courtyard, and he turned towards the little yard where Ling Tian and the other assassins of the first pavilion stayed. Since Ling Tian had nothing else better to do, he could vent his frustrations on those little brats and train them at the same time. Just a while ago, Justice had trained Ling Feng, Yan, Lei and Dian until he was addicted to the feeling, and the four of them would run whenever they see Justice. Ling Tian could also experience such a feeling. From afar, Ling Tian could hear loud laughter, and the owner of the laughter was obviously laughing heartily. Ling Tian immediately went forward to take hold of Broken Bar. Currently, all of the assassins were excitedly seated around the fire as they heard Ling Tian describing how he made fun of the Yu family elders. They were all filled with laughter and did not notice that their young noble, who was at the peak of his frustration, walking over. When Ling Tian walked over, Ling Tian was at the climax of the story. A Broken Bar. When I gave that old fogey a tight slap to the face, that old fogey flew into a ragia Broken Bar. Then a Broken Bar. At this moment, young noble suddenly appeared a Broken Bar. Ling Tian paused for a while intentionally to build up the suspense. The few of them who were eager to hear the continuation of the story asked eagerly, "What did young noble say?" Ling Tian chuckled and stretched lazily. "Take a guess." The few of them burst out laughing together, and a few others said together, "Is there still a need to guess?" The thickness of those old fogies' skin would be like the thickness of the Ling family courtyard's wall at the very most. However, Our young noble's skin is as thick as 2 rounds of our Ling family courtyard's walls. He would only need to use 30% of his ability and make an unreasonable statement. Those old fogies would immediately be rendered speechless. Haha, a broken bar. Everyone burst out laughing together as they slapped their thighs. A few of them laughed to the point their tears were oozing out. The few of them did indeed understand Ling Tian very well. However, they were just too unlucky. A broken bar. With a loud bang, the door of the room flew open and young noble Ling Tian stood outside of the door with a blackened expression. Is my skin very thick? Is it that the thickness of my skin is enough to go 2 times around my face? Half of my face stands for my shamelessness and the other half my impudence? Can someone answer me clearly? Ling Tian clenched his teeth and said slowly. Pin drop silence. Everyone had a look of despair on their faces. Ling Kai looked at Ling Tian and his mouth cramped up without daring to say a single thing. He did not dare to say a thing as he stood up pitifully with his head lowered. The rest of their faces were also completely pallid. Broken bar. A short while later a couple of figures were punished to stand outside in the snow with their heads lowered. According to young noble Ling's original words, their laughter was too loud and assassins should know how to maintain their cool. Thus, they need to cool down in the snow before copying a 1,000-word essay 100 times. A broken bar. The few of them wanted to cry but had no tears. Why were they so unlucky? It was one thing to stand in the snow, but copying a 1,000-word essay 100 times. A broken bar that was 100,000 words. Their tears began rolling down the corners of their eyes and onto the ground. There wasn't a single person in the room who dared to plead for mercy. At this moment, Li Zu's room was filled with laughter and chattering. In the room, everyone present was a unique beauty and were all like fairies. They were the beauties who young noble Ling was unable to find. All of them were gathered together in the circle being filled with laughter. On the table, there were 10 different snacks and a few jugs of wine. The wine was the maiden's heart which Ling Tian treasured the most. However, a full 5 jugs had appeared in this room. The window was open and the snow drifted into the room. At the same time, there were 3 peach blossoms swaying in the wind. In actual fact, the reason for all of their disappearance was extremely simple. They were gathering together to enjoy the snow and blossoms. Who could be bothered about young noble Ling? The faces of the 5 beauties were pinkish and they had obviously drunk a fair bit of wine. Occasionally, a joke from one of them would cause the 5 of them to burst out into laughter. Their arms were hanging on each other's shoulders and they looked extremely lazy. None of them had the disposition of a little princess, well-mannered lady, or chivalrous expert. If Ling Tian was present and witnessed this scene, he would probably turn into a wolf on the spot. A broken bar. Her rosy red lips took a sip of wine and even Li Zu, who was supposed to be sober, seemed a little drunk. A broken bar. When that little boy was bathing, his clothes were all stolen by someone. He did not even have a cloth to cover himself and could only squat in the water naked. Looking around, he used his hands to cover his broken bar. Li Zu stood up and demonstrated the action. Haha, a broken bar. The ladies burst out laughing together and Zhai Yanzu spat out a mouthful of wine. If Ling Tian was present, he would definitely be angered to the point he vomited blood. The little boy which Li Zu was describing was Ling Tian, who was pranked by her in their previous life. It was also no wonder why the lass could remember the details so clearly, as she animated every single scene. At the very end, the few ladies laughed to the point their sides ached and the story ended. Shui Qian'er laughed as she asked, "The little boy in Sister Zhu's story seems to have left a deep impression on Sister Zhu." Li Zu was already pretty drunk and replied without thinking, "Nonsense, of course he left a deep impression on me. Isn't he broken bar?" As she said that, she suddenly regained clarity and stopped. Looking at the other ladies awkwardly, she laughed dryly. "Let's not talk about this. Come, everyone drink." She then lifted up her glass to propose a toast. All of the ladies present were extremely sharp individuals and immediately looked at Li Zu with a profound gaze. After letting out a long "oh," they said in unison, "That little brat must be Sister Zhu's lover, right?" Li Zu was immediately reduced to a pathetic state as she scolded, "How could he be? All of you little scoundrels! All of you only know how to think in such a crooked manner." Ling Chen frowned and thought, How can he be Sister Zhu's lover? All of you may not know, but I am extremely certain that Sister Zhu's lover is young Noble. However, young Noble grew up with Chinner, and the little boy in the story would never be young Noble. Then who is the little boy? The few of them began guessing. For some reason, Ling Tian's figure drifted in Ling Chen's head, and she recalled Ling Tian's lonely gaze as a broken bar. Ling Chen's body shook as she gasped in disbelief. Could Sister Zhu be talking about young Noble? But a broken bar as her words left her mouth. All of the ladies had the same thought, and they looked at Li Zhu with doubt. How could it be possible? Li Zhu forced a smile. Younger Sister Chen has already said that Danj accompanied her when he was young. I did not have the fortune to meet him then. Chapter 625, Good Guy Bad Guy. The other ladies also agreed with her, but still felt a strange feeling in their heart. However, they all knew that they shouldn't continue to probe. Yu Bingyan smiled with happiness in her eyes, talking about Danj. I truly find it strange. There doesn't seem to be anything in the world that Danj cannot achieve. There isn't anything he doesn't know and anything that he isn't capable of doing. How can there be such a capable individual in the world? Even justice from beyond heavens is also incomparable in this aspect. These words had truly struck the heart of the ladies, and they nodded their heads in agreement. The only exception would be Miss Li Zhu, who knew Ling Tian the best. Shui Qian lifted up her wineglass and did not take a sip, but looked distracted and said, Indra the Broken Bar, he is an extremely strange person. In my eyes, he seems to be wrapped up in layers of mystery. Every time I feel like I am about to unveil the mystery, I would find myself only unveiling a thin layer of the mystery. It seems impossible to find the truth behind the mystery. These words of hers immediately received the approval of the others, and Yanzu said with a smile, I agree. I also feel the same, but I have already decided to not think about this matter any further. After all, no matter how we try to dig up the truth, it is impossibly broken bar. Shui Qian chuckled and said with a perplexed tone, it is strange indeed. If you call him a good guy, he can be worse than anyone else at times. But if you call him a bad person, you will feel that he is extremely nice at times. The most frustrating thing is the fact that even if I know that he is making use of me, I cannot help but go along with his wish. As her broken bar Shui Qian's voice turned soft and her fringe fell down, blocking half her face as she muttered, he broken bar, is he someone good or bad? The room fell silent. Is Ling Tian someone good or bad? This question is one that even Li Zhu, who transmigrated with Ling Tian, had no answer to. Li Zhu rubbed her eyes and said, good man, bad man? How can you use such a simple adjective to describe Danj? So what if he is good or bad? All of you are too naive. There are far too many things in the world that can't be described by just good or bad. Li Zhu's body shook and she continued, if someone steals something, would he be a bad person? If someone robs another person, would he be a good person? The other ladies did not understand what Li Zhu meant. Of course a thief and robber is a bad person. Do you even need to ask? Not necessarily right. Li Zhu pointed out, if the family of the thief or robbers has to starve if he doesn't steal or rob, would he still be considered a bad person? Similarly, what if someone beats a little thief to death when attempting to catch him? Would this person be a good person or hero? Would the king of the dead thief have goodwill towards the person who killed the thief? The person would only be seen as their enemy, an enemy who killed their father and husband. Naturally, there are many other possibilities. What if the family of the thief starves to death because of the death of the thief? Then would the person who killed the thief be responsible for the deaths of the thief's family? It is impossible to determine the good from bad. Everyone has a different standard of good and bad in his heart. Thus, the so-called good and bad is no more than a temporary feeling. Li Zhu said with disdain, everyone has their motive for doing anything, us included. We cannot judge the good from the bad. I only know that a person who thinks for his own kin, family and women, is a good person. Regardless of the methods they employ, at the very least, they are someone with responsibility. In my impression, Ling Tian is someone like that. He can't be considered good because he has done many despicable deeds and even harmed the lives of countless people. Of course, you cannot say that he is bad because of this. He has also done countless good deeds, brought joy into the hearts of many and contributed greatly to the commoners. More importantly, he is the ideal husband for us ladies. Regardless of the past, as long as we are his family and woman, he will protect and care for us with all he has. He would fight a bloody battle on the front lines just so that the people around him can live in joy and peace. To us women, this is enough. What more do we have to ask for? I would actually more afraid if my husband was a chivalrous hero or gentleman. Such a character would only bring hardship to his woman. What do you guys think? That's right. What more do we have to ask when we have such a husband? All the other ladies looked at Li Zhu in agreement. All the ladies present today could definitely be considered a strong woman, and they fully understood what Li Zhu said. Just as the saying goes, it is easy to find a priceless treasure but rare to find a sincere husband. As ladies, they were all emotional creatures, and as long as their husband could treat them well, they would be satisfied for the rest of their lives. As for how he fights on the outside or how much blood he spills, they only need to ensure that he can return to a safe and comfortable home. This would be the happiest life in the world. In this world where the strong reign supreme, just who is the one in the right? Who is wrong? Who is the good and who is the bad? What is the point of bothering about all that? Is it truly meaningful? Li Zhu's voice sounded again. Ling Tian truly does not have it easy. Do you think that he doesn't wish to lead a peaceful life with his women and enjoy the rest of his days? It is just that the circumstances of the world forced him to the forefront of danger. As long as he takes a step or even half a step back, his death is certain. Furthermore, he would be bringing all of us together with his many followers down together with him. He can only soldier on and walk to the peak of the world before having his peace. Li Zhu then looked at the ladies and asked slowly, let me ask all of you a question. If Ling Tian announces to the world right now that he is going to back out from the war for hegemony and disperse all of his armies, do you think the other powers would let go of him? Do you think they would be able to allow such a frightening character to live in their land? All of the ladies' faces turned dark and they shook their head. They all understood what it meant to uproot all potential sources of trouble. That's right. Thus, conflict is born. Little sister Bing Yan is from the Yu family, little sister Qian or the Shui family, little sister Yanzu the Zhao family, and Tenji's cousin Princess Zhao Yu the sky-bearing imperial family. All of these powers are not to be underestimated, and if one lets their guard down when maneuvering among these powers, death is certain. However, because of all of you around here, everything that Ling Tian does is filled with difficulties and challenges, but he never speaks about them. Just like the battle with the Zhao family, we had countless chances to kill their commander, Zhao Fingyang, on the battlefield. It wouldn't be difficult for us to do that, but we still chose to capture him alive. Why? Because of little sister Yanzu. However, there is something that I am certain of. If Zhao Fingyang or the Zhao family captured Danj, would they spare him because of little sister Yanzu? Have any of you thought about that? The ladies looked at each other and a chill ran down their spine. If the Zhao family caught Ling Tian, they would probably execute him on the spot. How would they give him a chance to survive? Zhao Yanzu's face was filled with guilt as she lowered her head. However, her heart was filled with sweetness. On top of that, all of us understand that the Yu family is the mastermind of the attack of the Lei family. But so what? We have all the most elite assassins in the world, and if we want to assassinate the important characters of the Yu family, Bright Jade City would already be filled with blood. Even if it would be a difficult matter for us to assassinate the Yu family head, what about the others of the Yu family? However, Tange did not say a single word about it or even made a reaction. Why is this so? Isn't this because of little sister Bing Yan? Little sister Qian, while Ling Tian has his own motives when dealing with your Shui family, he could also choose to use a completely different method to deal with your Shui family. He had at least 3 different ways to completely destroy the Shui family. However, Ling Tian also did not make such a choice, and I believe I don't need to point out the reason. Li Zhu looked at the ladies with a profound gaze and they all lowered their head with guilt. I believe that all of you hadn't thought about such things before, right? I should not be the one to say such things, but I still have to say them. Currently, the biggest dilemma that Ling Tian faces is how he should treat the 3 of you. He has to be wary of the 3 of your emotions and not hurt any of you. If not, Ling Tian might have already been the ruler of the world. There isn't a need to go through so much trouble. Not to mention the sky-bearing imperial family, even the Shui, Yu and Zhao family would disappear in a single night. He would already be the ruler of the world? He would be able to destroy the families in a single night? The 4 ladies cried out in unison. How is this possible? Li Zhu downed her glass of wine before saying slowly, do you here think that I am bragging? I wonder if all of you remember that during the battle with the Zhao family, a mountain collapsed to block the Blue Jade River, cutting off the communications of the Zhao family and allowing us to gain the upper hand. I believe that all of you should not have forgotten about it, right? Of course we remember, but what has this got to do with ruling over the world? Li Zhu sneered. Let me tell all of you, that mountain did not collapse on its own, but it was because of Ling Tian's hidden card. Ling Tian was the one who used a mysterious method to cause the collapse of the mountain. Apart from Ling Tian, the other 3 ladies were astounded. Causing a mountain which has been around for millions of years to collapse in an instant. Is wiping out a Yu, Shui or Zhao family really that difficult? Li Zhu said profoundly. The 3 ladies were in complete shock. Thank you for your continued following. Please support us by subscribe to encourage our continued creation. And press the bell to notify new chapter from us. Thank you.